Speaker, but I'm Helen Koski. Was born and raised in Ely. I graduated in 1956, so that way I don't have to tell you my age. You can just kind of put two and two together, and you'll know how old I am. So it's been a long, long time since I grew up on Crooked Lake. Most of you know where Crooked Lake is, right? I don't have to. I mean, it's got a basswood and then Crooked, Black LaCroix. It goes up into the Hudson Bay eventually. Crooked Lake was my dad bought the land, the way I can remember, in 1942 from a Dr. Knisley who was in Ohio, and I have absolutely no idea how Dr. Knisley got the land. But in 1942, they were selling real estate. The U.S. government was selling real estate, and somehow Dr. Knisley got it, and then my dad bought it. And then you also know that there was another resort on Curtin Falls, Bill Zoe. He was there too, and he bought it at about the same time. And why? I mean, like I say, I don't know why and how Dr. Knisley got it. But anyhow, my dad got it in 1942, and Crooked Lake is like 22 miles long. How they got the name Crooked Lake, I don't know what the background, except it is very crooked. And we were about halfway. I do have a map if you might want to look at, I'm not sure. We're in Friday Bay, which is about halfway. There's Lower Basswood Falls, was 12 miles from us, and Curtin Falls, the outlet, was 8 miles from us. So we were at Friday Bay, because there's a Wednesday Bay, Thursday Bay, Friday Bay, Saturday Bay, and a Sunday Bay. So anyhow, and we were on Friday Bay. My dad opened it, as far as the resort is concerned. My dad. What do I want to say? He started it, the name of the resort was Crooked Lake Fishing Lodge. And my dad started it, bought the land about 1942, and in 1944 was his first year of operation as a summer resort. It was literally a fishing camp. And of course, Crooked Lake, I mean, we were only like, as the crow flies, maybe 20 miles from Ely. But you couldn't get there by road, or you had to either paddle in. And of course, at that time, we had airplane flying. So they flew the guests in. And us, and of course, Basswood too, we had a lot of resorts on it too. But, so that, he offered 44, and then the air band, as you remember, if you have any background, the air band was initiated in 1949. And there was a grace period that they could still fly until 1952. And then in 1952, the air band, and it could no longer fly into the boundary waters. And my dad did try to operate by going through Crane Lake and coming that way with boats and over the Dawson Portage into Lac LaCroix. But it didn't work. I mean, it was just wasn't feasible with the guests. It just didn't work. So we did try also going up the Cloquet line into Gun Lake and Papoose and Chippewa and into Friday Bay, but it was pretty rough. So that didn't work. So my dad did finally sell his resort to the U.S. government in 1956. So anyhow, but like I said, it was the only way you could get there was by airplanes. Airplane was the major, and I do have some pictures up here that you might want to take a look about on later, or when you have time. And of course, being a young person, I'm in 1944. You can imagine how old I was. I mean, I was a young'un. Oh, come on. I was a young'un, and I had to go up to the resort the day after school was out. And I didn't come home until the day before school started, because my mother, of course, had to go up there and work also, because, you know, it was my mother and dad. That was it. And so it wasn't too exciting for a young'un to be up there. Not too many. And it was a fishing camp, so you didn't get any young people coming up there. I mean, the dads and the moms came, but the young people didn't come because there wasn't anything for them to do up there. So I really didn't have any kids that came up and visited and played with. So the most exciting part of the day was always when the airplane came in. So when the airplane came in, you just ran down to the dock and you know, maybe help bring the airplane in and tie the airplane up. I mean, you think you're a big deal, you know. And of course, you're hoping that maybe somebody sent you something from town, and of course, that's how they got their groceries and things like that too. But so that was one of the most exciting part of the day, was your flying the airplanes in. Okay, and of course you could hear these airplanes, you know, miles and miles away before they even came. So and you knew that after a while, you knew the different airplanes. You knew if it was a Nordstrom, you knew if it was the Wacos, or you knew if it was a little Cub. You knew what the airplanes were just by the sounds of them. So I got to be pretty good at that. But anyway, growing up, you learned how to. We didn't have internet. We didn't have emails. We barely had a radio that worked because we were so far off. And once in a while I would get to listen to Inner Sanctum and all those old radio programs. But so you learn to improvise. I had a dog. I had a black lab by the name of Smokey, and he was my companion. And we traveled, we bummed around. What do you do? I mean, you learn to enjoy the outdoors. You go for walks. You pretend. You play house. You play paper dolls. I don't know if you remember paper dolls. I mean, I played paper dolls. I would cut paper, you know, dolls out of Sears catalogs and those kind of things. And you had a pet squirrel. I had a pet squirrel. And that was a big deal. I mean, every day at a certain time you'd go out and feed the squirrel. And those kind of things. I learned to, I don't know. And as I got older, then I was allowed to drive a boat. So my dad would let me have a little 3-horse. And at one time, of course, they were flat-bottom boats, and of course, you didn't go very far in a 3-horse, a flat-bottom boat. And then later, in later years, he had the regular aluminum boats. But then I would go out, and my dog Smokey and I would kind of motor around Friday Bay, and then I did some fishing too. I learned to fish. I'm not much for fishing because I just he'd sit in one spot and waiting for that fish to come. But I would take a book. You know, I did a lot of reading. I learned to play cards. I did a lot of card playing. I was very good at canasta and cribbage, and I could play pretty good solitaire myself too. But you learn to do those kind of things. So you know, yeah. And when I was young, I mean, everybody had to work. You worked. I mean, a resort and a fishing camp like that is a 24/7. People were coming and going on the boats, and you had to get things ready for the next day. And so I also had jobs too. I mean, when I was little, maybe I only filled with salt and pepper shakers, or helped carry something from here to there, or went and got the mail situated or something. But as you get older, you get more jobs. I mean, I remember cleaning cabins. And because every day the people would go out fishing, well, you would go in and make beds and clean the bathrooms and that kind, et cetera, et cetera. And then I would wait on tables as I got older, and always washing dishes. There were always dishes to wash, and we didn't have like dishwashers at that time. I can remember these great big 2 tubs, you know, one here and then for rinse, and then you wipe them, and it was hot. We didn't have air conditioning, so it was hot, but there was always dishes to do. So those were some of the things that you pass the day with. But, there was at the resort we had, I would say, maybe 8 to 10.